Hey everybody, it's Robert Dinan, your Florida realtor, and I'm welcoming you again to our podcast, Florida Luxury Living, all things Florida, all things luxury, where we discuss market trends in the real estate market space, as well as what's happening in the development world on the west coast of Florida, and we invite important, educated experts into the podcast to share their expertise in the space. So if you like what we're doing, like, follow, subscribe, share, hit the bell to get notified on any of our new podcasts that are coming out. And please, let me introduce to you today, Matt Kinhke with MK Equity Corp here in sunny Sarasota, Florida. Welcome, Matt. Happy to have you on the show.
Listen, thank you for the invite. It's always fun to get out there and chat with you guys. So
Absolutely.
All good.
Absolutely. So, Matt, let's a little bit of history about yourself. You're originally from the Chicago area, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan.
Okay.
Went to school in Michigan, and then once I graduated, I moved down to Chicago and was involved in 2 different startup companies down there before I got into real estate. And probably, mid-90s, 96, something like that, 97, started getting into real estate. And we're doing some rehabs in some of the different little
pockets up there?
Yeah, one of the areas was Bucktown and Wicker Park and South Loop and River North. And so we just did different projects throughout the city. And
was it just you and a bunch of guys working together?
Myself and my brother and one of our friends were, active, and we were looking for land, doing rehabs. And I think the first deal we did was like a $150,000 rehab, and my brother was living on my couch, and he'd come home with drywall dust in his hair, and lived on my couch for 9 months, and probably made enough money off that deal to pay the credit card bills and pay for food. And next deal was kind of a similar type deal to that, and started learning the business. We got tied into a couple of bankers down there, a couple of other developers, one of which my brother grew up with his son up in the Holland, Michigan area. And just every deal got to be a little bit different. Same profile. It was
mostly in that residential space.
Yeah, it was all residential at that time, all condominium type, single family and condos, small condos.
Okay.
And so we started doing some little rehab houses. We bought some land, did some multi-unit type small condo buildings, 3 flats, 7, 15-unit buildings, 18. I think we went up to 20, 30-unit type rehab loft style building. And just started finding land, and we realized that there's kind of a science to the purchasing of land, which dictated the type of product that we could put up on it. And every deal we did got a little bit larger. Then we started getting into the mid-rise, larger 100-unit type condo buildings. And once we did that, we started realizing that the high-rise type space was similar pro formas and similar profiles to what we were doing. So every deal, from literally the single-family house spreadsheets that we used and pro formas that we built, was the same spreadsheet as we ended up using on our high-rise developments. So when we would go to a bank and we'd look
fantastic.
I still use the same spreadsheets in pro forma today as I used on the first single-family house. It's gotten a little bit more robust. Banks like to see this stuff, but we went in.
Use what works, right? Use what works. You have to use what works.
And my brain has been trained to understand all those numbers, right? So as I got into that and started realizing, and my brother the same thing, and when we were in the business together in Chicago, all of that stuff kind of flowed together, and your brain understood every number. So we knew where every 2x4 was, every window, the cost of every material on a job site. So we started understanding the business from that standpoint. And then we started negotiating contracts, understanding how those contracts affected the overall outcome of a project. So once you understood the sticks and bricks of a project, the finances, all of that, these things kind of came together. But then we started diversifying out. We did projects in Michigan, Florida, down in the Caribbean. And
you guys did some big deal in the Caribbean, right? Years back?
My brother is still deeply involved in the Turks and Caicos and has some resorts and
great
developments
diving
down there.
It's fantastic space.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah. The water down there, the beaches, the lifestyle, it's heaven on earth.
Getting things done, though, island time is a little hard, right?
Listen, the delta we learned when we did our first deal down in Florida was, if you look at the production that we could get done in Chicago and then the production rate that we would get things done down in Florida, there was a massive disconnect. And then if you took the Florida production and you tried to break that down into the Caribbean production, another massive a massive delta in production.
Absolutely.
So my brother and I, when I came down here, the first project I did, we were racing to see who could get a project done faster. And I was doing a little 10-story building, and he was doing I think it was close to a 30-story in downtown. And we raced, and he beat me by 6 months.
Really?
And it's just, in Chicago, you've got such a pool of people to draw from, the unions, the masses.
The unions. Yes,
So down here,
thing,
we lacked having enough people and just having.
Well, and quality workforce too, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the quality comes down to the people that are running the project, which is, put eyes on this stuff, like look at the quality. And when somebody starts a product, after the first 3 tiles, if they're quality or not, after doing, a couple of baseboards and hanging doors, and pretty quickly what you've got your hands into, and then it's management, right?
Yeah, right.
You got quality control issues that you've
That's
got to
a
get
management
into.
issue, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been fun, but I've had the luxury of being able to travel a lot in this business, and I spent a lot of time down in Anguilla, some time down in Turks, but we've all in development, watching development, looking at land, breaking down.
Self-educated in the space too.
It is.
Right?
It is. Yeah. And and I've met with a lot of people, worked with a lot of contractors, a lot of subcontractors, and had a lot of fun over the years in the business. But you lick your wounds and you learn some lessons along the way.
Absolutely.
So it's all good.
And the time in the business really gives you the expertise as you move forward in the business itself.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what helps you differentiate, like, the product that you're trying to produce versus just doing it for a paycheck, right? Like, I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do, love my projects, love the people I work with. We have a great team, but I think that's one of the key pieces of this business is you got to be passionate about what you do. And I'm sure a lot of the guys that you have on here that are in the business and do what I do are passionate about what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Passion is what drives most people in anything, right?
Listen,
if you don't have the passion for it,
That's it.
You're ham and egging, right?
That's it. And there's no fun in
there's
life
no
if
fun
you're
in
doing
it.
that.
No, there's no fun. I mean, you've done some wonderful projects right here in Sarasota area too.
Yeah, we've done a few projects downtown. One of them.
Yeah,
called
downtown's like
Sarah.
your space in the last couple of years, huh?
I like that. I feel comfortable down there. I love the product we do. The people have been great to work with. The city's been mostly great to deal with. And I say mostly just because my last project I'm trying to get through has taken me so long to get that one through the system. But we did a project called Sarah, which was, I don't know, we finished that one 6-8 years ago. And
that was 17 custom units in there, right?
Yeah.
And there's
downtown,
a 10-story building.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think it's a beautiful building. The units are unique. The floor plans were fantastic.
Yeah, what did you have, like
amenities.
6,200 square feet on those, something like that?
Yeah, that one we ran, I think we were right around 2,000 square feet up to the typical was 2,800 square feet, and then we had the penthouse in there, which was somewhere around 4,700 of interior and 6,200 maybe of total.
Overall, right,
Yeah.
right.
And that's
in the beautiful Burns Court area.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful
Fantastic
building.
spot. Yeah, I love that building.
Great
building.
location, great amenities,
Yeah.
just a really solid project.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a great project.
Yeah, and then
that's a fantastic. It's just a fantastic building.
And that was one that we
and that
came
has
out
mixed
with.
use underneath, right?
Correct. It's got
Yeah.
commercial on the first
Right.
floor, parking on the first floor, and then second floor up is all the residential and
residences,
amenities and all of that.
Yeah.
But that was a little bit unique. We had parking garages for most of the units, individual parking garages.
Which is definitely a plus for the luxury space, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
you
got
need to have that.
You do, and I think people now seem to be, they're not willing to give up some of the luxuries. And when I look at other markets, and most of our buyers come in from around the world, not local Sarasota people.
Right.
And so when we look at
talk on that a little bit. When you're looking at the dynamics of your buyer in this luxury space, it's typically not someone moving from Boca Grande or a Longboat Key into that Sarasota luxury condo space.
we have such a diversity of buyers, but most of our buyers, if I look at the profile of our buyer, generally we get some from West, California, Chicago land, meaning Midwest.
Right.
And then we go up to the Northeast and we pull a bunch of buyers out of the Northeast. But if I break down every one of our buildings, those are the locations they come from, is out West, California somewhere,
Yep.
Midwest somewhere, and East Coast somewhere. Like those are the people that are
So when
coming
you say
down
East
here.
Coast, like Northeast.
Yeah, like
New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, D.C.,
exactly,
Philly.
exactly.
Connecticut.
All of those areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are you seeing these folks move to Florida full time, or are these part time people?
These are generally people that are living down here now as their primary residence, but most of them keep a second or a third residence. And I think part of it is, if you look at the lifestyle in Sarasota, and I have this conversation a lot with people, I'm like, I don't know where I would ever want to retire. right? Like I'm kind of like I'm corrupted now
you're
because I'm
corrupted,
like,
yeah.
I love Sarasota. The restaurants are great. The people are great. The beaches. I mean, it's got
It's
everything.
a wonderful place.
Yeah, it's everything you want
place.
for a retirement location,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
I
listen,
live where people vacation, right? We
that's
always
it.
say, right?
That's
We joke
it.
with that.
And so all of our buyers that come down, I'll go out with them and, give them direction on where I would go. I've had my favorite restaurants and all that kind of stuff, but you send them out and it's like, they get it. And I'll go out with them over the next like 6 months or a year and say, how do you like Sarasota? Just to kind of gauge what the response is going on. And it's like the overwhelming majority of them love Sarasota. They love it here. A small percentage will move back out because their kids are in another state and they want to be closer to the grandkids.
That's what I see happening a lot more with people. Yeah.
And so
when they leave, that's the reason they leave. It's a family thing. Not, I don't like this place.
Everyone that I can recount that has moved out over the last few years has been family and
issues,
grandkids,
right?
and they want to be closer to the kids, and you can't blame them.
No,
life is short, man. Get out there and enjoy it.
Every minute's very blessed to have.
Amen to that.
Yeah, life is very short.
Yes,
very
it
short.
is.
So you did the Sansera.
So we did Sansera, learned a lot, met with a lot of great people, got a lot of input. I'm a big collaborator, so I love to talk to people and get their input on how I could better things. Because the next project I do,
but that's your
I want
education process too. That's how you're educating yourself too in the business, right?
It is, and a lot of the people that are doing projects downtown seem to come, through my office and pick my brain and want, some.
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, and they want to know what I know, right? And it's like, I only know what I do through how I do it and collaborating and meeting with people and going through that whole the education program. But what we've done, and then the second project that I did was the collection. We finished that one up about a year ago.
That was 12 units.
Turn
right?
that over.
12 units in there.
And what I did with that project is I got a little bit more aggressive on the modernist style.
The architecture, the interior architecture and outerior,
exactly.
And the outside, the elevation of the property.
And I wanted to do that with Sansera, but I wasn't sure if the buyers of Sarasota
would accept that, right?
Yes, can they handle it? Because
it's a couple different years later too, so there's a lot more that was out there in that space with the collection shared.
It was, and Sarasota, has this reputation as being such an architectural city, and people love their architecture here. But I'd walk through downtown, and I'm like, I don't see it. Like, there's no buildings here that have some great architectural appeal.
Right,
like,
there's no lipstick building like New York City.
Yeah, like I want to sit there and stare at a building because it's so unique and so cool that I just want to sit there and take it in. I didn't see those buildings here. A lot of single-family homes, really great architecture, like some beautiful
stuff. Absolutely.
And so I wanted to kind of toy around with that a little bit downtown to see if we could kind of enter that phase of the architectural feel of Sarasota.
Right.
So I did Sansera to kind of understand, like, what are the levels, what are the boundaries that I'll be pushed to. And then collection, I'm like, you know what? A lot of great people here, a lot of people that love architecture. We're finally coming out. We're starting to see more aggressive architecture. So I brought a team in to give me the collection. And we tweaked and played with that and worked with some great designers over there. And we finally, and the city was pushing back a little bit on that one because of the structure that I had there.
With all the expansive glass and stuff that you did there?
Yeah, it was all the interior structure. Because I also play with these small sites that are unusually difficult to build on. And it's also...
Yeah, what do you say? We just talked earlier. You said you pick the things that other people don't see the value in, right?
Yeah, and they don't want to deal with the brain damage involved in trying to get projects approved and the design and the structural and all of that stuff that goes into these. So I like these infill locations because you can put really cool buildings on them. They're not massive projects, so I always thought that they should be fairly easy to get through the system, build them, sell them. I never assumed there was a ton of risk associated with it. And then on the collection, that was true to that site as well. Small little infill site, and we designed this really cool building. What I didn't expect was that so many people would come out and they're like, that is the coolest building in Sarasota.
It is it is. It's one of, yes.
And it's one
agreed.
of those that when I go and I stare and I look at it, it's like, I look at it, I'm like, I could have switched that, I could have tweaked that, I maybe should have done that, but I'm like, that building looks great the way it is.
It does, it's phenomenal.
All of the buyers love the look of it. Everybody that, that we sat down and when we were collaborating on design and, they're large units, they're large outdoor deck spaces.
Yeah, the outdoor space, we need outdoor space in Florida, right? And the outdoor space in those were just fantastic.
And the reason why I bought that site was because I was so excited about the living, dining, kitchen area looking out over the city with the late afternoon sunset. So when you sit in those units and you look at the corner of that building, the glass corner, and you look at the sun going down over the city. Not everybody needs to have water view. If you go in that building and look at it, some of the coolest sunset views in Sarasota are in that building.
Wow.
It's great. It could not have turned out better. And all of
Congratulations,
the buyers,
buddy. That's a fantastic project. It's nice to put your name on something like that.
Yeah,
amazing.
And you talk to the buyers. I'm like, you still love the building. You still love, the reasons why you bought it, all of that stuff. And you still get the thumbs up, and, we love it. So
Yeah.
that's a successful project in my mind.
Absolutely, man. That's one of, like you said, it is one of the most
It's a cool,
outstanding, cool buildings in downtown Sarasota, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about the collection. We talked about the Sans Serra, the Obsidian.
Listen, that's the next iteration.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you a little trajectory of what I'm up against right now. So
Well, it's downtown Sarasota waterfront.
downtown, beautiful. I mean, it's a great, I think it's an A-rated piece of land, which is why I designed the Obsidian for that project, because it really, that site, that location needed something great. And so Sans Serra, what I did there is I designed that building with 10-foot ceiling heights up until the penthouse. The penthouse had a 12-foot ceiling height.
Right.
Loved the penthouse space. And the top 2 floors, actually, of the Sans Serra have 12-foot ceiling heights. So I love that space so much. And what it did is it kind of took the horizontal lifestyle and it made it a little bit more vertical. So you get these big windows, big expansive views out over the water, whatever your view is, it's big. So I'm like, I want to do that on the collection, but I'm going to standardize the penthouse unit at Sans Serra. I'm going to use that as my standard for all of the units at the collection, except I'm going to go to 14 feet on the top floor.
14 feet.
And so what I did is...
Now, have there been other 14-foot things that done
not
ever?
Really, no.
Not right?
No, this is kind of what...
So you're pushing boundaries?
But this was all per the zoning code and, the way that it was written. So I wanted to... I didn't want to provide the same 10-foot or 8-foot ceiling height that every other building in town has done, right? And we're always trying to lead the... We want to be a leader, not a follower.
Absolutely. And you have been. And you absolutely have been.
Yeah, so after collection, everybody kind of started going to that 12-foot... Or after the Sans Serra,
they followed suit.
Yeah, and so all the projects I'd watch, and then I was like, collection, I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to bump it up, get that 14-foot ceiling height on the top floor on the penthouse. I walk up into that unit, a show-stopping penthouse. Like, you go in that unit and you're like, this is just perfection. A couple of little tweaks we made to that unit. After we were permitted, we went back in, we added some glass, just again for the vast views out of that thing.
Right.
The expansive views, the big tall ceilings. So with Obsidian, I'm like, as I'm standing in the penthouse of collection, I'm like, I'm going to utilize this through all of the units at Obsidian, because this is so spectacular and it's so beautiful and it has such a life of its own. So I designed the Obsidian using the penthouse style. That 14-foot ceiling height as my standard in the Obsidian.
Right.
So we went through design that building. All of a sudden I started getting a lot of grief from, the stop group, the neighbors, the opposition, whatever you want to call them, because they don't want the building to be built where we're proposing it. But the building is so special and so unique and such a piece of art, it has justified my 2.5-year fight to get this thing approved.
It's been 2.5 years already, huh?
2.5 years to get a project approved. That was, and we've really tweaked that thing down to, like, every little piece of this thing has been touched and made sure that it meets code, meets all the criteria.
Well, you're a high detailed guy.
And so when we get into that, again, the 14-foot ceiling heights, and that building has some of the most special floor plans of any project I've ever seen. 1 unit per floor. It's only 14 units.
14 units, 1 unit per floor.
1 unit per floor.
And then talk a little bit about what they're going to look like.
So we have our smallest unit in the building is just over 4,300 square feet.
That's the smallest, just 4,300 square feet.
Yeah, spectacular. Yep. Like the best floor plan I think you'll ever find. Go to the 6,000 square foot units, which are, as you get a little bit taller in the building, I think we've got 5.
What's that, 4th and 5th floor?
So our floors are different on that one just because, but it's an 18-story building. When you go to the top 9 units are 6,000 square feet. The bottom 5 units are 4,300 square feet.
Okay.
All 1 unit per floor. The units have basically 2 kitchens in them. They've got staff quarters and bedrooms, wine fridges, 14-foot window wall systems that look out over the bay. Just a spectacular building. The
so you're going to have
there,
view to view?
Yeah,
window to window?
The entire building. So the elevator is in the core of the building, so you have views all the way around the building.
Nice.
So depending upon where you stand, sunset views. Amenity package in that building is unlike anything else.
Could probably see Tampa Bay from there.
I think you're going to be able to.
Yeah.
I haven't, we sent drones
Yeah,
up
right,
and
of
stuff,
course,
but I haven't tried to shoot that one yet, but I'm pretty sure on a clear day we will. But the amenity package, again,
Yeah, talk about the
collaboration.
amenities for that building, yeah.
So it's got a little bit of everything. It's got
Because most of yours have spas, fitness centers,
Yeah,
parking,
this one-
concierge service.
Yeah,
you know.
this thing it's got a cigar smoking lounge, a wine tasting lounge. It's got a golf simulator machine, indoor, outdoor yoga, fitness room, cold plunge, spas,
Nice.
pools.
I'll take the penthouse, man.
Yeah, it's got a concierge, doctor's facility, a massage room. It's got all of the little walking path around the facility, guest suites. It just has a little bit of everything.
And
so
they're larger units too, so you can do these kind of things
Yeah.
in that building too.
Yeah, and we've sat down with a number of realtors in town, like guys that I think are extremely experienced with this type of product, and sat them down, came in and gave them the little dog and pony show, and said, "Hey, I want you to criticize this project as best you can."
Right.
Like because I'm such a collaborator, I like to pick as much information out of people as I can.
Well, why would you do this? Why didn't you do this? Kind of thing, right?
And so I literally. And after
How did the feedback come? Were they honest? Were they honest?
I had one criticism.
Really?
One out of meeting with at least 40 to 50 people that I would say are highly regarded. And these are past buyers. These are realtors.
Right.
These are designers. These are people that are in the business that if I have a buyer, and a couple of the buyers I think from previous projects are prospects that I would have for this project that I think when I sat down with them, one criticism, because in our larger units, I have 2 toilets for the master bathroom. I didn't put that in, for whatever reason, drew a blank on the lower units. He said, if you're going to do that in the larger unit, you got to put the 2 toilets in the master in the lower units in the 4,300 square foot unit. I'm like, it's a great point.
Yeah.
So we did it. So, that was literally it. Now, a lot of the amenities and stuff that we have in there, we tweak the designs. We continue to kind of build and build up the look and the feel and the style and stuff of the building. And
what are you kind of coining the building as? Architecturally, or we all know it's a luxury building, of course.
I don't know how to coin it because it's something that's so unique to this market. But what we did realize in my meeting with people over the years is there's a certain level of product that we design a building to meet the requirements of a certain piece of property. And I think that's one of my strengths. And a certain
buyer too, right?
It is,
buyer.
But that buyer gets kind of wrapped up into the design and the price point of a building that sits on a certain piece of property in a certain location of a town.
Right.
Like downtown. Right. Like I couldn't sell $100 million condo on, back off Fruitville, towards 75. Like it
behind
doesn't
Trader
work.
Joe's, yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to specifically design a product type for a buyer. And with that project, I had a buyer in mind, the thought process for location,
right,
product quality, a certain level of buyer, but it's also
luxuriousness, the opulence of it all.
Because
right,
it's an extremely expensive building.
Right. It is, yeah, of course.
And it's only 14 units, so it's not like I can go in there and justify building a building like that and not charge somebody for it. And the location is the only thing that justifies that.
Correct.
So you look at the St. Regis, which just finished out. Or is finishing out, but did their opening,
they had
the
soft opening the other day,
and that's a perfect example of kind of the mindset. If you build, they will come. We have a buyer, a set of buyers in Sarasota ready to go if they get the product.
Right,
and that's why St. Regis was very successful because there was a pent up demand for that type of product, which didn't exist until then.
No.
You can say Ritz-Carlton, you can say Rosewood, you can say Obsidian, whatever. But each one of these projects has kind of a specific buyer in mind when they're designing and building that on the site that they're proposing.
Correct.
Right, and that's very similar to what I'm doing with Obsidian.
You're creating that avatar of who you think is going to be a buyer.
That's it. And through a lot of my meetings with prospects, with realtors, with friends, other people in the business, designers that I've worked with, we have a really solid team of people put together for that project. So I think that we have a mindset of who we think is going to come to the door, and we think we'll be successful with that.
Absolutely. I mean, you've been the other two have been great here in Sarasota. Your other projects have been successes.
Yeah.
But those 2 other projects in Sarasota were fantastic. I think they exceeded a lot of people's expectations. A lot of people. I think a lot of people thought, what is this guy doing? What is he doing here? He's never going to get this for this. He's not going to do that for that. There's no way. You know, there's all the naysayers out there, right?
And they exist at a very high level in Sarasota. And I got that from the very beginning. Before I ever broke ground on San Sara, everybody, all I heard was, there's no way he's going to get that built. There's no way it's going to get built. And I'm like, well, why not?
Yeah.
I'm like, out of all the years, out of all the high rises, all the projects I've ever tried to do, and
gotten done
in Florida, the Caribbean, Michigan, Chicago, it's like, I don't know what the mindset is of somebody going into a project thinking that they're not going to get it built. Like, that's not the business I'm in. The business I'm in
is already done.
Yeah,
it's already done. Yeah,
is to create something that's incredible and go and watch it come to fruition. Right. Like, you want.
You saw it. You see the picture. You know what you have. It's already done. I know what it's going to look like. These are hurdles to get through, right?
That's it. And that's part of the journey of this business, and it's part of the journey of life, right?
It's the journey of life.
You got to get in there and journey, but your end goal is to see the project completed and hopefully have a whole bunch of really happy buyers and great products. So
and the product is phenomenal. What you put out there, and obviously with your, I don't know a lot of other developers that are going back out and talking with their people who bought in their projects and going to dinner with them and meeting with them to get their feedback on the properties too. That's a very unique quality, Matt, too.
Well, part of it is it's a child. If you like to think of it that way or not, like I every time I go downtown Sarasota, I have to look at projects that I did, and there's always.
And you live in Sarasota,
and I do. So I see a lot of these people around. We try to keep these people as happy as we can.
Right.
We want to have our ultimate goal is to have happy buyers when we're done.
Of course.
Not always that easy. Some are very difficult to deal with. You can't be friends with everybody, and you try. That's it. I mean,
but Sarasota. People think, Sarasota. Sarasota's a city. It's one of the bigger cities, right, in Florida. Still, Sarasota has that small town feel.
It does.
And you do run into the same people all the time, especially if you're in the downtown space.
No question.
So, I mean, it really has a hometown feel with a big city appeal, right?
Yeah.
Didn't mean to rhyme there, but...
and listen, man, and I think that's what makes Sarasota unique, though, right?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
What drives people here when they come here and they walk...
Well, the arts, the culture, I mean, that's stuff that... Listen, there's a lot of beautiful places in Florida. We all know that. Beautiful places from the East Coast to down south and Naples. But, people always say, well, if I'm going to be doing something arts and culturally wise, where are you going? You're coming to Sarasota.
Yeah. You have to at least pass by here, and it has to be on the list of cities to look at and drive through.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of people. Number of our buyers over the years have been people that come up from Naples.
Yeah.
That's one of their sites that they'll hit. Some of the new product going up in Tampa has driven them up there. So we have people, we are always competing with Tampa, St. Pete, and Naples.
There's some big projects happening in St. Pete too now.
Yeah, and we're even getting people from the east side of the state, coming over and looking here. And so I think Sarasota is on the map. It's become a great little, an alternative to some of those other locations that people have always dreamt of retiring to. But then when they come over here, they kind of get it, and they're like, this is a special place.
It is.
So I think we'll continue to do pretty well here.
Yeah, Matt. Well, thank you for coming on today, and I feel the same way you do about Sarasota. Fantastic place. Fantastic place.
Listen, thank you for having me on.
Of course, a pleasure to have you on as always. Again, Robert Dinan, your Florida realtor. This is Florida Luxury Living. All things Florida, all things luxury, and we'll see you again soon. Have a great day.